Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Probably more gentlemen than ladies, but you never know. Um, I think that's one thing I'm not sure I can say I've ever run into too much here on our channel. Are ladies, and if there are any of you out there, we'd love to hear from you. It'd be interesting to find out if there are any. Just something that came to mind here. Just saying, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't planning to say that, but it would be interesting to know if there are uh, any female participants in this great sport of ours or sport pastime of ours, Stratomatic, tabletop sports, APBA. I'm sure that there are plenty. I know that there, there's some Facebook groups that are run by. There's a lady that's involved with those, so it's not a male exclusive sport or sport endeavor. I guess that's what I should say. I keep saying sport, but that's not what I'm talking about. But anyway, so um, again, first off, now I guess second off because I mentioned about one, but so glasses. I mean, I, I'm not a big fan of them. I could probably take them off, but then I don't know. Then I can't see any, which I'm not sure that helps you either. So, all right. So I got I got towards doing a little sort of addendum about the double switch, and I didn't get there because we had a small group tonight that we had to go to, so I was a little pressed for time, and I would love to be able to get this into the shot. Hi, Herb, and I'm having trouble with it, so let me try doing this. Maybe this will help. That's a little better. Okay. So in the first game involving the Braves, I had a situation come up where the Braves got behind early. They were using a relatively inexperienced pitcher, and he got down, I think, 5 or 6 runs. And it was the third inning, and his spot came up in the order. And I decided to do a double switch. And I think where a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, a little bit. The double switch that I pulled was Chipper Jones because he was, let me see, Chipper was, well, he was the second to last out in the inning. And the statistician was the primary, was the person who asked the question or brought up it's not, I don't know if you'd call it an issue or, because, I mean, it sounded to me like he wasn't particularly schooled on how to pull a double switch. I think he's a fan of the Angels, and so being an AL guy, and then a lot of minor league ball, you've gone to the designated hitter, and so with a designated hitter, the double switch is almost unheard of. Aside from you're gonna, I mean, there's almost no reason to. So let's go ahead and discuss this for a bit because it's a baseball point. It will help you in your projects if you are someone who is somewhat hesitant to do something with the pitcher's hitting, and you're not sure what exactly is the point. Why would you do that? And so, first off, let's start with the roster. A team in a baseball team up until September 1 is required to have at maximum 25 players on a team. So the makeup of those teams, generally speaking, are 13 batters and 12 pitchers. That's generally. Sometimes you'll see 12 batters and 13 pitchers, especially if there's a doubleheader that's either coming up or just happened or whatever. A team might carry an extra pitcher. Or if maybe they have a series coming up that they want to have an extra lefty because they know they're going up against a team that's stocked with them. Like, I mean, this Phillies team is pretty lefty powerful. So it's good to have some lefty pitchers. A team might bring up an extra pitcher for that. But generally speaking, I'd say 12 pitchers is the norm. And so, you have a 5-man rotation that leaves 7 relief pitchers. It could get dicey if you overuse your relief pitchers. If, in Stratomatic, you really don't. I prefer not to use my pitchers more than 2 days in a row if I can help it. I had even come up with charts where I would kind of plot out in the TBL. I was plotting out when I used pitchers. So what's my point? My point is, you want to be able to optimize the number of pitchers that you use. And so here's a dilemma when you have a pitcher hitting is that if you're behind, or if generally speaking, you don't want the pitcher to hit. You would if you had your druthers, you would never want the pitcher to hit, unless he's like Babe Ruth or there are some exceptional hitters that are out there. I think Ohtani, he's a double-edged player. He'll play the field and he'll pitch. And you've got some guys who got some power. It's not the norm, and because a starting pitcher, you're willing to accept him hitting because you want him out there to pitch several innings. You're trying, whether it's eating innings, whether it's they're just one of the best pitchers on your team, you want to use them, and you don't want to bring them out of the game, so you resign yourself to them hitting. I mean, the AL did away with it. They brought in designated hitters, I guess, because they didn't like the pitcher hitting. They thought it was, they wanted a little more offense, and they thought, and I mean, it's definitely a point of strategy for teams. So the double switch is a way that you can maximize your pitching staff and also maximize the amount, the number of hitters, let's say, in a row that you have, in especially in latter innings or middle innings. If you have to abandon a starting pitcher because they've got rocked in the 3rd inning, like we had the other night, you might want to pinch hit for your pitcher because he's just not doing very well, and it benefits your team to have the pinch hitter come in. Well, so let's say that your pitcher was the one that led off, and in this case, led off the inning. In the bottom of the 3rd, James Parr's spot in that game led off. So you're at least going to be down to the 2nd batter in the inning, and so 2 guys got on in that inning. So it took you all the way down to the cleanup hitter. So right there, you're like, if you want to use a long reliever at that spot, that 5 batters, like if you get 5 batters into the next inning, your pitcher spot's coming up. And so you're going to either have to burn that pitcher or you're going to have to make him hit. And if you're playing from behind, who really wants to do that? So I'm going to put this up above now, and I'll just show you what it's all about. I mean, if you would have watched that, I'll try and talk you through it. And there's a couple of different strategies you can use to double switches too. It's not only just the way I said it. That's probably the primary mechanism for doing it. So let's get this out here. So, and I'll zoom it in here. All right, so we got the Braves lineup here. This is the one that matters. Let me get my pen. Okay. So this is what the inning I'm talking about. Parr, the 3rd inning, Parr led off his spot, and we brought in Greg Norton to pinch hit. And again, we got the strikeout, and then there was a fly out, and then you got 2 singles in a row. So that pushes this down to the 4th batter. McCann pops out, ends the inning. So at this point, you're going to bring a pitcher in because you pinch hit for Parr. He can't continue. You put him down here. Well, you go to the 4th. Now, in this case, you can't foresee it. It wasn't exactly 1, 2, 3, but 3 batters went in the 4th. It would have been. We brought in Carlisle, who is rated for 3 innings. we could have brought him in here and gotten 2 innings out of him. He could have pitched the top of the 4th, got through the bottom of the 4th, and his spot didn't come up. And then you get to the 5th, and then you would have had to pinch hit for him. He could have pitched 2 innings without issue. But let's say that, you get the single here, you get the fly out, then here you get another single, Infante gets the 3rd, and this guy walks. Then you've got this spot coming up. What are you going to do? You've got to bring out Carlisle. Now, let me preface this by saying we are playing this. This was a game from September 16th. The rosters are expanded, so you're less about trying to, like, you could get away, because, I mean, I think the Braves right now are carrying 15 pitchers. So they have 10 relievers. It's less incumbent, and so maybe I didn't need to do that here. So what you do is you want to pick somebody who is either 8th or 9th if you're going to double switch. Probably 8th or 9th. You'd like to put off that pitcher spot coming up the latest possible, so that you can. So that way you get the optimum amount of time for this pitcher to be in the game before his spot comes up. If you could get 2 innings out of that pitcher, you've probably done your job as a manager double switching in this kind of fashion. So in this case, we took out Chipper. I didn't want to bring out McCann. Now, here's the trouble. I probably should have brought out McCann. But I guess in my mind, I always think catchers are a little bit special in that it's really tough to find a third one. Although, again, we have expanded rosters. But you bring out the catcher, bring in your backup catcher. If that guy gets hurt, you are cooked. What are you going to do? In this case, the Braves they have Corky Miller as their backup, and then they have a third catcher. So that shouldn't be, but, in the heat of the moment, I wasn't thinking straight. So I thought, okay, well, it's going to be Chipper or it's going to be Prado. And I guess in my mind, I also thought that Prado is a little more versatile. He can play multiple positions. I thought this would allow me to shift some things around later. I'm already going to this mindset where I'm shoving the pitcher in a different spot in the lineup. So I chose Chipper. It also gave it to me in the 8th spot as opposed to the 7th. Now, Statistician pointed out Chipper was the Braves' highest average hitter on the team, and he actually hits very well against lefties. So bringing him out of this game was not optimal by any stretch, and given the situation, could have probably brought in Carlisle, brought out Prado. We would have had to pinch hit for him after the 5th, but we've already gotten 2 innings out, which is what I was talking about. Like, it would be good to get at least 2 innings out of a long reliever if you're doing this. So that's one potential double switch. We did a second one later on. Actually, no, we didn't. We didn't do a second one here. But we did do some other wrangling. I mean, you could do switches like, bring in. I mean, that's common in the American League too. Bringing in another, like we brought in Kelly Johnson here at second base. He's only rated for second base, so that's where we ended up having to. We moved Infante to short. He's pretty versatile as well. So that you could bring Johnson in here, but that's and so Norton plays left after he pinch hit there in that 3rd inning. Okay, here's another way you could double switch. This is an interesting way to do it, I think, and I've done it before. And I don't know as I have an example, but let's bring it up here to the Phillies. Let's say the Phillies were ahead by 1, and they get through the 9th inning. Earl comes up here. Now I did a straight sub in the 8th, and this wasn't Earl, this was Bruntlett. So I would switch him out for a defensive replacement because he's a 5 range. He's good with the glove, but with his range, he's susceptible to a triple on a 1 roll with a D20 on a left field X. So I'd want to make the double switch. So let's say that Ryan Howard made the final out. That means that if it went extra innings and the Phillies, if the Braves tied the ball game here, going to 10, Burl would hit first. What you could do, if you're bringing in Lidge to close, you could put Lidge into this spot here where Burl would go. So he would hit first in the 10th. you're probably not going to use Lidge more than an inning. You could put Bruntlett in the pitcher spot, and then you've basically done the double switch in order to basically set yourself up to use a batter. And also what you've done, because Bruntlett is a poorer hitter, let's say you had, now we'd already used Stairs, but, we had Jeff Jenkins on the bench. Let's say you had a right-hander coming up in the 10th on the mound. You could bring in Jenkins here, and he's a better hitter for that pinch hit role than Bruntlett, and you put Bruntlett down to the 5 hole. And so you get a guy on here that's got a little bit better on-base percentage, and it gives you a chance to so, I mean, that's a creative way you can double switch. There's a lot of theories that I don't want to say a lot. There's plenty of things you can do, but usually the double switch is to delay the pitcher coming up to hit, delay a pinch hitter being necessary. In the case of September baseball, you probably are okay not double switching. And I probably, I will admit, I think I get a little bit, I may get a little too creative with it because, like in September here especially, you've got a lot of extra pen hands, you got a lot of extra bench. You can burn a pinch hitter pretty easily. Let's say, pinch hitter, the pitcher spot's up, you bring in the lefty, and then the other team immediately goes to the pen for the lefty reliever to match up. You could burn that left-handed hitter pretty easily because you've got another 6 or 7 guys on your bench that you are comfortable turning to from the right side. And then once you've done that, that pitching team is required to pitch that guy. He can't come out of the game till after that at bat is over, barring injury. So, you have a lot more options September. But if you're in the midst of a season where you only have a 25-man roster, and you get in one of these games where you're just trying to manage your pen, you don't want to burn through all 7 guys out of the pen. Maybe the previous game you had to use 4, and you're just like, I got to figure out how to do this. That's what you can do. You could, you just kind of kick that can down the road. You put that pitcher spot being as late as possible, and it just and it gives you a chance to use some innings eaters to try and give you the. I mean, we used a lot of guys here, the Braves anyway, so it may not have been wise, and who knows, maybe I cost them a win there. You never know. Let's see. Chipper got 2 at bats, and then here he led off. Maybe he leads off with a single, McCann's double scores him. Who knows? I mean, Chipper not a good runner, and with a double without stars, probably wouldn't send Chipper in that case. I probably, given the deficit, I probably would hold him, and so you get the 9, and then you get the 5-3. I mean, if you just, if all the rolls are the same after that, it doesn't score a run. Maybe you skip 1 run here on the 9. I can't remember if that was a sack, if it was deep enough for a sack fly or not. And actually, probably it's a C, because if it had been a B, or maybe a B question, well, B question mark, you can't do it. But if it were a regular B, we would try to move McCann over. No, not with 1 out. Not with 2 outs. That's the 2nd out. Never mind. We wouldn't do that. But in any regard, I mean, so that's what the double switch is about. It's neat to do. It's fun when you see a guy like Charlie Manuel, who is an American League guy, try to do it, and he gets 2 lefties up in the pen, and he calls for the lefty, and everybody laughs at him. We had that happen in Philly. That was fun. Everybody kind of gave Uncle Charlie a hard time. And I was one of them. And guess what? Probably he did a pretty good job with a team that was talented, but not quite as talented as you would think. I mean, those first those first few guys, I mean, the good fielders for the most part. You got Burl out there who's more or less, you know, a fire extinguisher. Anything hit to him, he'll catch. But other than that, he's not very mobile. Howard, he's not a great first baseman. But other than that, pretty good fielding team right up the gut, and some timely hitters. So let me see. I'm going to see if I got any comments or questions on the line here because, I mean, yeah, baseball strategy. It's one of those sports that you can. Oh, my volume went down a bit when I moved the camera. Okay. Was it better? It's probably better when it was up in the vise. Um, yeah, I have to kind of move closer in here if I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. But okay. Um, I think baseball is one of those sports. I mean, football is that too, but where you got some strategy that can go on. Um, you kind of you can. There's time to think about it. There's lots of time. Pitching changes. You can second guess them for a minute before they come back from commercial. You can try and decipher what baseball strategy, and with Stratomatic we don't even get half of it because pitch selection, um, pitching around a guy, um, location, um, um, defense. I mean, yeah, they've started adding the shift, but um, there's some defense, but only a certain amount of it. But baseball strategy, it's nice because you have time to consider it, and a manager doesn't have to do anything immediately. He can think through it. Um, and yeah, so let's see. The Brutlet example makes sense. Yeah, I mean, but you might be bringing in a guy who's actually a good hitter, and then you might want to do it a different way. It's great to be able to think about it, and um, be it's gonna be tough to be innovative with a 100+ year old game, but with some of the stuff coming out now with um, maybe a movement towards starting pitchers that go much shorter. This might be something that becomes a much more like in the National League. It might become much more relevant to learn how to maximize your roster's effectiveness. So rather than have five dedicated starting pitchers who are all going to hopefully go 5 to 7 innings or more, maybe you carry 8 guys who each go 3 innings, and then manage them in a way that's going to rotate every 4 days, and then you have some late inning guys. But those 8 guys, you get 2 guys each of those rounds who only face the lineup at most like 2 times. Maybe that's the way it's going. I don't know. It very well could. And in that case, again, you're like hoping maybe you get a pitcher that comes up once, but then you can then work him to the point where you don't have that spot come up again for a while. And um, anyway, if that makes, I mean, some people might say, well, you're just pinch hitting anyway, but you're also potentially leaving a guy in that's got defensive. Um, he helps you out defensively too, or um, there are reasons to do it. There are reasons not to do it too. Maybe it's not effective. Maybe you think I would rather burn the hitter, um, and that's fine. I can just toss the hitter in there as a pinch hitter and don't have to worry about him anymore. Yeah, I mean that's another thing too. But um, it's strategy. Sometimes it's a big help. You know, sometimes it's a wash. Sometimes you can burn you. So, in the case of the Braves, I don't know. I think it was probably a wash. They were probably going to lose that game anyway, but who knows? So, um, figure you get by with three inning guys. You only need 9 pitchers on the team. Yeah, I mean, I think very well. I mean, you got a guy like, you get some of the big time aces, and I think it's going to be really tough for a manager not to try and I mean, the other thing that it hurts, I mean, it kind of hurts the players because I think it would help them health wise. I think it would hurt them in the pocketbook because starters, they like wins, and a 3 inning, according to our current set of rules, you have to pitch 5 innings um, to qualify for a win. So what happens to a guy like Clayton Kershaw who, wants to pile up wins, knows that he gets a payday for piling up wins, and he can't get it because he's only going to pitch 3 innings. I think that's where, unless baseball is willing to um, own the game exactly, wants the decision. Yes, Terry P. Starting pitchers like to own the game, wants the decision. Right. Closers want the save. That's where they get their payday. Aroldis Chapman is going to want to save. So, this 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 place where you got Andrew Miller, who is a viable closer pitching 7th inning, 6 innings, sixth inning and 7th inning appearances in the playoffs. I think that's going to be fine by him, but I think throughout the regular season he's going to get pretty ticked off if he's getting like 10 saves because he's always coming up in high leverage but low statistical significance moments in the game where it shows up. Sure, it shows up in the wins and losses, but it doesn't show up in. I mean, when I say wins and losses for the team, doesn't show up in wins in saves and bottom line for him as a pitcher, and where he and his agent can go and like lobby ownership, different general managers, whatever, for a big contract. So, this is coming to a head. I mean, we're living in this moment where we're starting to get the analytics and tradition, and there's always going to be some, butting of the heads when it comes to that. You're going to have the guys who say it's smart to do it this way, and then you're going to have the other guys who say, well, we've always done it this way. It's the way that all of the people who are writing and signing the paychecks, it's the way they think, and so why are we going to change? And you got you got your Terry Franconas who are kind of like trying to weed through that right now and figure out the best way to manage it. And then you got your Buck Showalders who uh, have a one game play in and never brings out your closer. Never brings out your best pitcher in that game because he's your closer and you need to have him. And so where is the middle ground is fuzzy, and we'll talk in 10 years. Another thing that is coming up with strategy is fielding, um, like alternating fielders. Let's say your right fielder, you have a great center fielder and your right fielder is really good, but your left fielder is like Pat Burrell in this game. Well, why wouldn't you try to hide Pat Burrell in right field when it makes sense statistically based on your analytics, your spray charts, all that kind of stuff? If you know a guy is never going to hit it to right field, why are you putting Pat Burrell in left to be left to fend for himself out there? when you could move your other guy. In this case, let's say Jason Worth, you could flip him over to left field, and boom, there goes that's what that's coming. I mean, that's impacting. It's starting to happen, and what it's going to do is it's going to make box scores are probably going to have to change because of it. Because if you look at a box score, you always got the RF dash LF if you're going to switch to from right field to left in the middle of the game. Well, what if your RF dash LF dash RF dot LF or dash LF dot you've got like 15 changes because just that's the way that the manager's going to use them because it makes sense. It makes sense to do it that way. It You want to force the other team to think about it and say, am I going to play into the hitter's strength, or am I going to try and take advantage of the other team's weakness? And so I'm going to hide that weakness as a defense, force that manager to say, okay, what am I going to do? Force that hitter to say, what am I going to do? Force that hitter to say, am I going to listen to my manager, or am I going to do it my own way? And in that case, what you have done is you've destabilized your opponent and made him weak. Just in that. So, I mean, those are the types of things that's baseball, and that's that's what we're talking about. So, um, we'll see, and it's just going to keep getting more and more insane as rules change. If Manfred decides that he doesn't want you to be able to overload one side of the infield, well, to me that's just stupid. Force the other team to do something. Force them to be a better hitter. Force them to quit trying to hit home runs. The era of the home run doesn't have to continue. Shouldn't continue. Make it tough. Why? Yeah. So you could say, oh, you can only change every inning. Why? Why do you need to? Why do you need to pigeonhole rules that I mean, I'm cool with it. I think you should make the other manager think. I think you should make the other hitter think. I think you should make the pitcher think. Make them do their job. Make them earn their money. Make them be good. You be good. In doing all that, you're getting better. You are doing the best you can. You are putting your best foot forward. And if you get your guys to buy into that, which is what kind of also what we're talking about here, starting pitchers, they may not buy into it. How do you do that? That's the question. It's fun. It's really fun to think about. How do you get a team on board with alternative managing styles, alternative ways to put together a team, because you've got the Yankees going out and spending God knows how much money, and you're Oakland and you can't do that. You're Kansas City and you can't do that. You're Pittsburgh, you can't do that. How do you build a team? You build it through the draft. Houston did it. Cubs did it. Cubs have lots of money, but Cubs did it. Stratomatic Delaware says, yeah, imagine running small ball in Major League Baseball today. It may come back to that, but you need a commitment to it. You need guys that are skilled at small ball. You need guys who can slap it through the hole the other way. You need guys who, when they see that runner breaking from first and they're given the hit and run sign, they're changing their swing and they are doing what they're told to do. They see the runner breaking from second, they're squaring around a bunt, or maybe not breaking. Maybe that's not always wise either, but there's a lot of strategy that can happen. But again, you're talking about Major League Baseball players who make their money on statistics. And maybe someday we'll get to a game where you get paid based on the way it looks rather than the way it looks on a piece of paper, with a bunch of numbers that are somewhat subjective, like runs batted in, or um, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's that. I mean, that's probably the most subjective of numbers, but there are others out there. Um, and so that's where it's going. So it started as double switch, and it's gone off on a meandering tangent. But um, more or less, what my point is use your head. Where and the game here has limitations when it comes to strategy. I look forward to yeah on team winning percentage. Terry P says, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty evident when a player is important to his team. I don't think you need, um, I mean, home runs are somewhat subjective. I mean, Stanton hitting the home runs he did is probably more impressive than Judge hitting the ones he did based on where he plays. It's um, Barry Bonds hitting at Pac Bell or whatever the heck it's called now, AT&T. I mean, there's impressive stuff, and then there's Ryan Howard hitting 58 at Citizens Bank Park, which in right field is not. You're going to get some fluffers there. So, um, you're you know what I'm saying. There's some subjectivity to home runs, but and runs batted in. But store manager knows who is doing well. Yeah. So let's work through this. If you have questions, absolutely put them in the comments. I like videos about making videos about strategy, tutorials on how to do certain things. Stratomatic Delaware there. He put out some videos recently that are super advanced based tutorials. Go check them out if you're um, I run through these games a little slow for probably some guys. I mean, Espo, he can crank out a super advanced game pretty quickly. Me, not so much. But I am kind of glossing over a lot of the auxiliary stuff that I'm doing there. The stolen base rolls, the um, some of the X chances, the D20 on that you roll with a guy on base. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that, and I started making tutorials for those things, and I think I made one, and I got a comment like, "Oh, you should have tried a little harder" or something, and so I was just like, "Screw it, I'll just play games." I mean, I prepped, but I guess I didn't prep enough, so it's okay. I mean, I'll get back to it at some point, but um, and I mean, and it's not to say that I was right with what I mean. There were some calculations that I did that were not right, but I don't know. It's good to put a comment in and say, I think you might have been wrong, but here's what I think it is, and then maybe I don't feel like I'm wasting time. Um, and when I have projects, but anyway, I just figured I'd put this together. Rough game earlier. I think it turned out all right, even though it was a rough game. Uh, uh, Braves are, I don't know. Braves are tough in this simulation for some reason. I don't know what it is, but they are. The suckers just keep coming back. Suckers just keep coming back. Uh, Brian McCann, a couple doubles. Wait, no, he went 2 for 4 in game one. But 2 3-run homers. That'll the guy in the previous series really didn't do a whole lot, but old Brian McCann, he just took the Phillies and throw them in the whirlpool and said, you know what, work out those kinks and come back tomorrow because you guys are gonna lose. And I'm not drunk. I my eyes feel that way because they feel poofy. If you see in this one here, it's a little red right down there. It's not great, but it's getting better. So so I'm feeling a little like tired. Was up a little late last night. Couldn't get right to sleep, and up early as usual. So Super Sport Herb Stratomatic. I swear I'm not drunk. Stratomatic Delaware. That's what it was. It was a combination of Stratomatic Delaware. It was like, maybe you need to change your name. No, I'm drunk on life. But let me see. Who else has been around? Terry P. Thank you for coming and adding your 2 cents. Stratomelon. That might have been what I said. Reminds me of Gallagher, if you remember Gallagher. Comedian, sort of stand-up comedy, but his own brand. Ken, yep, there you are. I am not drunk. Herb, I haven't had a lick of alcohol tonight, and that's probably my problem. I probably would be. I need some. Splash Zone, yeah, exactly. So, we got a new car recently, and I had to take this off of my one that was going to, you know what. It's backwards. It's been plastered by a quarter of the bugs in the great state of Delaware. But yeah, what I'd like to do is find a way to put it right up about here, Yeah, right up about there. I might at some point. Yeah, the what did he call that? The juice, something -matic. Marv Levy's fight. No, I'm not. No. I should memorize his. He's got a poem by like Longfellow or something. On into that. I don't know. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna find it. It's a great one for this, and maybe I'll sign it off with that. I'm kind of warbling on. Vegematic. That's it. You got her. Vegematic, Ken. You win the smashed watermelon across the face. No. Let's go Google.com. We're gonna look this up. This is Marv was such an awesome. Well, he's still alive, but motivator. Marv. No, it's not gonna do Marv. I guess I gotta type it in. Levy quotes. Well, so here we go. Here's some Marv Levy quotes for you. This is a good way to sign off. Speaking of strategy, speaking of a smart man, what was he? Summa cum laude at Harvard grad. He had some interesting, and I'll finish it off with the poem that he used to say, which I love. Probably will bring a tear to my eye. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? That was one of them. Great football coaches have the vision to see, the faith to believe, the courage to do, and 25 great players. It's about right. Marv didn't do so well in Kansas City. Did a little better when he had 25 great players. I'm not going to go through all of these. Yeah, plan your work and work your plan. But that's not what I'm looking for. There is a quote. There is a poem. Let's do Marv Levy poem. Because it's not his poem, but he loved to talk about it. It's beautiful. All right. Here is the poem. If someone put it in the comments, I'm going to be crying. No, Sledge-matic. Okay, it's D. Scott Howard for the win. All right. This is, so, I don't know where it came from. Fight on, my men, Sir Andrew said. A little I'm hurt, but not yet slain. I'll just lie down and bleed a while, and then I'll rise and fight again. That's that's what the Phillies will do here in this, and that's what I hope all of you do in real life. Get back up, rise again, fight on. It'll be all right. Just take your lick your wounds, bleed her out. It'll be good. So, time to go lie down and bleed a while, and we'll get back up and fight again probably tomorrow. Game 3 of this series. Hopefully, we can put a little right on those Braves. Good night, guys. Double switch. Use it. Have fun with it. You're not going to go wrong. You'll be fine. If you mess up with it, don't worry. We all have. I did it tonight. It didn't work. It's all right. Actually, it worked for the Braves. So anyway, good night, guys. Thanks a lot. And any comments, leave them. We'll try to answer them. And thanks a lot. Good night.